Welcome back to season 7 of Sista Brunch. I mean, I'm calling it season 7, but in reality, this is like a pre-launch special bonus VIP episode because we found a young woman who's going to Sundance this year, and we wanted to get this out in case any of you are going to Sundance. We want to encourage you to go see this beautiful short film, go meet this filmmaker, lift her up, let her know how important this work is that she's doing and that we are in community with her. So that's why we're doing this quick little bonus episode. And our guest is Praise Odigie Paige. I got it. The Praise and Paige, I know, but see, I have my nerve with the name Fanchon. So, and Praise is a Nigerian-born filmmaker living in Brooklyn, New York, and her work centers girls and women on the edge of quiet transformation. She's currently developing her debut feature, Igbo Land, which is a working title. It's an intimate period drama about faith, girlhood, and desire at the edge of war, and we'll certainly see some connections between this feature and the film that's going to Sundance. The short is called Birdie. It's playing this year in the Shorts Program 5, so it's showing on January 26th, 27th, 30th, and February 1st. Check your programs. Be sure to see it. Welcome, Praise.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. It's great to have you. And I can imagine you are getting ready to head out to Utah for the last year that it is there in Park City. Huge congratulations to you. So
thank you.
We love to start the episodes with asking you about your journey and you know getting to Sundance and getting to be here on Sista Brunch and kind of all the things that you've done. Obviously, immigration is a big part of your story and the stories you tell. So go as far back as you'd like. It could be your great grandparents, or it could just be when you're born, or later than that. And tell us a bit about your journey.
Oh man, wow, I didn't think to go as far back as my great grandparents,
You
but
can.
yeah, I suppose I could start with my parents. My dad has always kind of had a dramatic flair, and I grew up with artists who didn't call themselves artists, but like are absolutely artists and definitely see the world in that way. And I had always been just kind of a really introverted, like curious kid who devoured books and loved reading and would sort of just disappear in my own world of like eternal childhood boredom. And the moments that I remember the most distinctly from my childhood are my mom like reciting and telling us these like old television shows she used to watch in her day, and like I think she watched like 2 episodes of it and like would make up the rest, and she would just go on and on, and
Amazing.
like there was different seasons and things like that. So stories were just like always a part of our lives. I remember just like, you know, especially in Nigeria, like NEPA would take light, and so there'd be a blackout and we'd just be like outside, my mom telling us stories. And then when we moved to the US, I got this real kind of immigrant child like bug of like, I need to be a doctor. And so I went to college with this mission to be a medical doctor. And not shortly after, I just found myself trying to figure out how I could really make this doctor thing work. And I was like, maybe I'll be a medical writer, and just trying to find ways that like my creative life could live in the midst of this decision that I had self-imposed on myself. And I was really going to see it through, I think. And then I took this film class with Professor Terrence Ross. I remember the first like
Amazing.
day of class. He was like, you know, I'm famous for turning pre-med majors into filmmakers. And I remember thinking like,
Yes.
who in their right mind, what kind of idiot would study film, would pay money to study film?
Wow.
And by the end of that class, I was like absolutely bamboozled by the form. And my aunt had come from Nigeria, actually. She was visiting and she came to the film festival, and she saw this little film that I made. And we were also proud of this little film. And I remember her like, we were on the way home and she just looked at me in the back of the car. She was like, "What are you studying?" And I said medicine, and she was like, why? And it was just this
Wow.
moment of like,
Yes.
no one has these expectations for myself but me. And she'd passed away 6 months later. And I
Oh my
remember the
goodness.
moment that I heard about her passing and I heard my mom in the room, I just like had this like truckload sense of like, your life can be taken away at any point. And if you don't spend every minute of your life like actually doing the thing that you're supposed to do and you love, like
Yes.
life just the how precarious life was just became so clear to me. And I switched my major, and my dad was so supportive. He went and like bought me my first camera on credit, and then I really
Yes.
had to do film.
Yeah. Pay that off eventually, because then school, et cetera, costs a
Eventually.
whole lot. Where was so did your family immigrate to New York? Is that where you all were, or did they go somewhere else and you ended up there for school?
Yeah, I mean, we first moved to Atlanta. That was our first stop. Actually, our
Okay.
first stop was New York for a few months, then Atlanta for a couple of years, and then we came
Okay.
back to New York and spent the most time here.
Okay. And school, where were you taking this class gonna be a doctor, and then ended up in that one class? And the teacher was Terrence Ross, was it? Thank
Terrence
you.
Ross, if you're
Thank
out
you,
there,
Terrence. We
I owe you my
appreciate
life.
you changing the world over here.
Seriously.
Yes.
I'm sure many people have that story, to be honest. He was such an amazing, amazing force. Yeah, Adelphi University in
Okay.
New York. It's a little suburban college in Long Island, in New York. Yeah.
All right. And so you end up on this path, and I know you've done another, and I think you have a short that's also in post now, and you're developing this feature. So and when we talk about some of the themes for this feature, it sounds a lot like what we see in Birdie. Maybe this is a kind of a proof of concept.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and I have so many questions about it. It's beautiful. I love a coming of age story. I always have. Also, period pieces. I was
Mhm.
born in the year that it takes place in
Oh,
1970, so there was some nice nostalgia there.
yeah.
Um, but so these themes, especially, I'd love to talk about faith and also about war. And it's really, those things so frequently go hand in hand, on one hand, because sometimes people's faith lead them to start wars or to have an excuse to start wars. And then on the other hand, it is the thing that keeps us surviving in the
Yeah.
midst of it, which we see with this beautiful family of two sisters and a mom. So, anywhere you want to take us, and also maybe just start by just telling our listeners and viewers about Birdie, and
Mhm.
then why those themes.
Yeah, Birdie follows a 16-year-old Nigerian teenager. Her name is English, and she's a refugee living with her mother and her sister in rural Virginia in the aftermath of the Biafran War. And yeah, the film kind of just follows her on her emotional journey as she's trying to hold on to her sister who's being drawn or pulled away by this new, arrival, another refugee, and just coming to terms with the reality of and the fragility of her family and what's left of their lives here and back home. Faith in war. Wow, that's such an interesting framing. I put the things in the film that I know intimately. I don't know
Okay.
war intimately, but like faith has been such a big part of my life, and I was so curious about so much of the film is about displacement and like pressing into the private lives of these young women and how things like desire and selfhood and agency and shame are shaped by these massive forces that are outside of their control. And I just remember my own coming of age experience being, in this kind of devout setting where this
Okay.
question of morality became more than just about morality. It became sort of connected to the yes or no of my survival. And so for this character, English, I think that, she sees that faith is a big part of her mother's life, and it is their way of sort of ordering their lives against this larger uncertainty around them. But I think that she takes it very seriously as like this, if I am good, then everything will be good. And so her coming of age experience is really realizing that, yeah, the outcome of their lives is not really based on how closely she follows the rules, but that these things are really truly outside of her control.
And she has this moment where she sees her sister Birdie breaking the rules, kind of, right? And not knowing, you know, when you are raised in this way, you believe that even the afterlife is not, like, every moment of your life is now not going to go right because of this moment. And also the family is waiting to find out about the fate of the girl's father. And
and I should add as well, like, another big part of like why faith is such a big part of the story is because when you look at the, you know, the history of the Biafran War and, you know, the Catholic presence.
I would love to. Will you tell us more about the Biafran War, actually? Yeah.
It was a civil, you know, it was a really tragic thing that happened in Nigeria that's not very talked about. Those who grew up in the 70s, like, remember faintly, at least from here, just hearing about the war and seeing those images of starving children. But yeah, it was a period of like mass displacement. I believe of around 2 million people were killed in the war, and most of those people were children. It's a pretty graphic part of Nigerian history that is not talked about as much, and that's for a reason. And so, there was a huge Catholic presence in Nigeria generally, and then particularly from like a humanitarian perspective during the war. And I was really fascinated by like Igbo Catholic culture. Like Igbos make up some of the most of like the Catholic population in the world, which isn't something that many people know.
Yes.
And so just like watching, there's a particular documentary called Night Flight to Uli. And there's this moment where you're just watching this procession happening, and there's like, is it the natural austerity of their expression of faith, or is it like the sobriety of this really heavy period of time that's happening in their life? I don't know, but they moved differently, and that was really interesting to me, and I wanted to explore that pace in the film and see what it felt like to follow this family that lives under these sort of really tight set of like rituals and rules and routines. And because it becomes really easy to see in that, like the sort of slow cracking of like their longing and their relationships. And so it felt like the perfect way to like really ground the environment, ground their lives, and get and to sort of see the more subtle emotional things that were happening internally for them.
Amazing. I have so many questions about your approach to the film. There's some kind of big ones that are like, why Virginia? Like, I'm so curious, why Virginia of all the places, right? And just as you were talking about this experience of of Catholicism in Nigeria versus now they're here in the United States, they're immigrants, they are with white nuns who are and just there's a contrast there, right? Like they're all practicing the same religion, but it isn't the same, and the fears and the concerns and even some of those things that are built into religion, like potential shame and things, are different. So I noticed that and just kind of wondered if there were any choices around Virginia and yes.
Yeah. Well, the film was originally supposed to take place in Massachusetts, but we could not afford Massachusetts.
Okay.
However, there are, what was so fascinating to me about this time in history, which is like rarely visually explored, there are not many films about Nigerian immigrants during this time period. And there was a wave of immigration from Africa in general during this time period. But there were so many people who like either, came here because of the war or stayed because of the war and found themselves in these really like obscure places,
Yeah,
like
okay.
not these big metro cities like New York or LA.
Right.
There were certainly like huge waves of immigrants there, but like Oklahoma and like the Midwest and
Interesting.
Minnesota. And I just thought that that was such the contrast there was so interesting to me.
Yes.
Like like arrive in this really unfamiliar place, deeply unfamiliar place. And as I
Yes.
was thinking about how do I show this experience of like a kind of cultural exile, I felt like I really wanted to root it in that type of environment versus in New York where it's easy to find your people. Like what happens when you move from Nigeria to Oklahoma? Like what is that experience like? And those people exist, they existed. And so
Yeah.
I wanted to tap into that really unexplored part of Nigerian immigration history to the US.
Nice.
Hi, this is Praise Odigie Paige, and you're watching Sista Brunch.
I'm so curious when you started to write the film. Um, I, what I love about it, and what I love when a coming of age film is done well, is that it's quiet and the kind of plot points and catalysts are slow and but also everything, right? It's like it's the like we said for English, it's the end of her world when she comes
Mm,
upon this moment,
yeah.
and at the same time, to us, we're just watching these two people who are grooving on each other in a beautiful field, right? Like this lovely, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm curious about, I've always wondered when you're going to write something like that, and getting feedback on it, or were there people who were like, we need more things to happen? Or, yeah. And I'm just, how
Yeah,
did
I
you,
was
yeah.
one of those people,
Okay.
for me,
Okay.
I mean, ultimately where I got to was when you start writing a short film in this kind of economy and in a
Mm.
landscape where, there isn't really a ton of support for filmmakers to take like creative risks
Right.
and you're reminded constantly of like what the short form requires, which I respect.
Right. Right.
Try to
Yes.
follow as many of those rules as it felt right to. It's hard to make something that feels really, really slow. And I also, one thing that was really surprising to me that I didn't expect as much was even like in the process of auditioning, when I would give the script to actors and how they were had sort of been conditioned to see these characters and watching the rehearsals, I was like, oh, that's not the character that I
Oh,
imagined at
okay.
all. And
Okay.
it made me realize that while we are all sort of we as Black women, we just really don't get to see ourselves in this
Yes,
way.
that's why we
We're not
do this. Exactly.
we're not
And so
given
then even when we're performers, we put on
we put
something
on
that,
something. I
yes.
had people like I'm Nigerian, and I had people doing the script who were like putting on the Nigerian
Ooh,
accent. And I was like, you don't have to do that. You're
right.
Nigerian. I don't know. Like we're just, and
Right.
it's that way for Black women, but especially for African women. Like there are just not a lot of
Mm,
blueprints of, and there are so many, but they're not the ones in sort of like popular mainstream
right.
culture.
Right.
Or where like the subtleties of who you are and your emotional journey gets room to just really be. And so ultimately it came down for me when I realized that I was going to be self-funding this, that I wanted to write the film that I wanted to watch, and I
Love it.
and I wanted to make the film. And I of course had a lot of doubts about the length of the film, because to do that, that's not a 10-minute journey. Like if you want to really
Yes.
see them like reach this moment of an arc, you need to give them space to breathe. And so there were so many risky decisions that did not make that were not feasible to make.
Mm,
But I had a lot of also really great friends who encouraged me to just like they were like, the best movie that you're going to make is the one that you're happy with. And so to have
absolutely.
it like be accepted by Sundance was like just this incredible moment of double validation, because it was like not only did I
Yes.
I made the film that I wanted to, and
Yes,
it
and they
feels really
saw
incredible.
that.
Yeah, and they saw that, so it was really cool.
Thank you. Thank you for telling the story you wanted to tell because it is this reflection that we don't get to see often enough. And the allowance to just breathe and
Mm,
to just be, to
yeah,
live, to allow the camera to allow these
yeah,
characters to live. And so we saw that. You mentioned what a challenging time it is financially and that you had to self-fund this. So we do have a finances section segment on Sister Brunch. We'd love to know
yeah.
whatever you're comfortable talking about, what the budget was for the film.
Yeah, oh my goodness. The budget was, and then the budget was, and was, and was. It just kept climbing.
Is what
And
you
even as we
start with,
speak,
and yes, and I would imagine, given that you got to get folks to Sundance, you still raising money, and yeah.
it just keeps climbing. I will just say that my hope is that it ends at 150K. But it was a
Yes.
very expensive film to make because we shot on film. And not only did we shoot on
Okay,
film,
you
we shot on
did.
35, which is a lot more expensive
Yes.
than 16. And we shot
Yes.
on location, like
Oh
in
my,
Virginia. And so it took a lot to make the film.
it's so worth it. It's
Yeah.
obviously so worth it. I was going to ask you that because, there was a piece of me that was like, did they digitally add in the film reel? There's so many moments where, and initially I was like, is it snowing in Virginia? It don't snow in Virginia, right? Like, and then you're seeing just these, and then that, and then you realize this beautiful texture and that it is this period piece. But my goodness, yes, I love that you're like, I'm gonna tell the movie I want to tell. That's gonna be a period piece. in a town that I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
I can
definitely.
imagine. I can imagine.
That was
And
an experience. We shot
wow.
the film in Freeze, Virginia. Spelled like fries, border of between Virginia and North Carolina, and we shot in the Appalachian Mountains during election week. So, so
Oh no.
our president was elected, and
Oh
our third
no.
day of shooting, we woke up and we were like, "Wow, we are a bunch of people of color in the middle of God knows where,
Oh my
making a film
goodness.
about migration, immigrants, and we knew that things were about to
This thing
change
that's being
for a lot of
attacked.
those people in this country. So it was really surreal to be shooting in that place during that time. And there were so many random pockets of people who extended us grace and were so
Great.
kind, and that was really encouraging. And then there was the obvious.
Uh,
Yeah.
it that just adds a whole new layer to what you've made. That's beautiful. It's so interesting. As I was preparing for this, just looking online at the different synopses for it,
Mm,
and there were some that said it's through the eyes of the mom, and then others that said it's through the eyes of Birdie, and it's through the. I think it was mom and English, but I thought that was interesting because, of course, when I watched it, I was pulled into English's
mm,
experience,
mm.
but then I was like, my goodness, yes, there's this. We got to show Ekwem Sangi's film Farewell Amore, and then I'm also like, oh my gosh, but there's all these possibilities for this to end up for us to be seeing these three different stories. So just I can't wait to see the feature. And this was another reason truly that we wanted to have you on, because whatever our community can do to continue to support you and hopefully you don't have to raise the next amount on your own. So we'll go to our Let's Talk Tech question, and that can be whatever you'd like to share, something, a piece of technology, verbiage, etc., that someone who doesn't do what you do wouldn't know it if they heard the word.
Yeah. My favorite is a very unserious one, which is sticks. And that means something very sharp is coming your way. And it's a very important one because, as you
Nice.
know, film is a very, very intensive and like, you have to be so focused and sometimes you're just like down in the weeds and you hear someone yell sticks and you just have to get out of the way or something bad's gonna happen.
Nice. I love it. We have not had that one before. I love it. And again, you're like it's saying sticks in Appalachia. You're like, oh, there's a stick on the ground. You're like, wait, no, there's sticks coming. I love it. That's great. That's great. All right. So our signature Sista Brunch question is you, Praise, and your younger self, and she can be whatever age you'd like to, whatever age she needed to hear from you. You're sitting down to a Sista Brunch, and what are you both eating, and what are you both drinking, and what do you tell her?
We're drinking some sort of hibiscus drink, and we're having that one's a hard one. We're having oysters. So random.
Okay. That is a first. That is a first, but they're good. They're good. Little butter, a little like the kind of
definitely,
nice.
What I would say, I would say to Praise coming out of college, it's gonna be okay, girl. Like you're gonna, I think there's this angst, especially when you're, with younger people. When you're young, it's like you feel like if you don't make it now, that's the end of your life. But the really beautiful and gracious thing about film is that it actually it works to live your life a little bit and to grow with form. And so, I wish I could tell, actually, what I really wish I could tell her, it's okay to make a bad film, that you will recover from this. Yeah, and because I think that women especially, and women of color, it can feel like there's no room to make mistakes, but you can't grow unless you try and make those mistakes. So I would just tell her, like, you just grow with it. It's gonna be fine. Take your time. There's no rush. It'll happen when it's supposed to happen. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Praise, we wish you just an amazing time at Sundance. We wish that somebody gonna walk up to you after this and be like, how much do you need to make this? It's just such a pleasure to meet you. We're so happy to be able to welcome you into the Sista Brunch family.
Such a pleasure to talk to you. I was delighted to get the email. I mean, you're creating such a warm and beautiful space for us. And so thank you for holding this space and just also being such thoughtful watchers and consumers, of film. So really, really appreciate this time.
Thank you.